planes don't hate you, they just don't know you're there. Twisters opens on sky the color of old steel and air that can't decide whether to breathe in or out. We meet Kate Cooper where this genre always meets its heroes, on the line between curiosity and consequence. She's a storm scientist who measures risk in Doppler pulses and gut checks, famous for seeing structure in chaos and infamous for the day she trusted that skill 1 mile too far. The prologue does what good prologues do, stitches a scar. A research intercept goes sideways, a wedge tightens, data turns into debris, the field loses people it can't replace. Kate walks away not from weather but from the part of herself that wanted to touch it. Years later, the atmosphere makes its case anyway. A new season builds over Oklahoma with stacked days, dry lines that look like tripwires, and an anomalous jet loop that reloads the chamber faster than towns can reset. The hook that pulls Kate back is practical and human. Javi, an old colleague turned startup meteorologist, arrives with a truck full of sensors and a pitch that sounds like guilt with funding. His Tempest system promises two things at once: smarter warnings for rural communities and a second chance for Kate to turn impulse into procedure. Opposition isn't a villain with a mustache, it's a rival methodology with a following. Tyler Owen storms TikTok and the Panhandle with equal confidence, a swaggering chaser whose crew runs like a pit team and whose live streams turn supercells into prime time. He isn't reckless, he's calibrated for spectacle. Where Kate wants structure, wet bulb readings, hotographs, mobile messinets, Tyler wants angle, how to park the shot where light makes rotation obvious. The movie doesn't mock him. It lets him be good at the thing he does, and that's important because the plot keeps making them share roads. Setup becomes Slate of Days. The first round is a multi-vortex that refuses to pick a lane. Kate's team plays defense, deploys pods, builds a polygon that buys a cattle town 12 extra minutes. Tyler's caravan runs the inflow notch and gifts the internet a frame that looks like God reconsidering. They meet in the blue after, sirens down, generators humming, neighbors counting roofs instead of blessings. That's when the thesis lands: storms are physics, disaster is logistics. The movie treats volunteers with the dignity of a second unit, church kitchens that become supply chains, high school gyms coded into shelters by muscle memory, a ham radio operator who has been waiting his entire life to be necessary. Character work rides shotgun with radar. Kate carries survivor's math. She overcommunicates risk, under-promises results, refuses to let adrenaline choose for her. Javi is her ballast. He believes in the model because he believes in her, and because he's seen too many bad warnings to trust pretty graphics. Tyler is a foil who stops being foil when the sky stops being hypothetical. He teases Kate for treating the open range like a lab. She teases him for treating it like a stage. The film earns their friction by giving them distinct virtues. Tyler's crew can reroute on dirt with a tire half bald. Kate's can thread a probe through a cornfield with 10 seconds to spare. The middle act strings a beadwork of intercepts. A landspout party catches a county off guard. A cap bust embarrasses every forecast and hands the day to a dry microburst. A nocturnal supercell tests whether the new pods can wake a sleeping town before the sirens do. In each case, the movie honors the boring heroics. Someone changes a flat in hail. Someone updates a call list because the last number was disconnected. Someone sits with a scared kid in a shelter and talks about dogs. When the big one finally turtles up on the triple point, you know it not because the score shouts, but because the visuals stop needing help. Striations stacked like geology, a wall cloud with opinions, inflow that smells like wet pennies and turned dirt. The tech versus swagger dichotomy doesn't survive contact with a storm family. A wedge transitions to a violent stovepipe, occludes, recycles, and drops a sister that takes the left split like it's owed rent. Kate reads the merge a hair faster than anyone and calls an audible that saves a convoy from parking on a future debris path. Tyler reads the road faster than anyone and pulls a detour through a fence row that looks like a dare. Javi gets pods into the core. One of Tyler's rookies freezes and learns the oldest rule: if you can't add value, add distance. The movie's physics stay generous, wind fields obey, debris has weight, lightning remembers to be random. Between chases, the film lets people be people. Kate visits a memorial she's been avoiding, where wind chimes refuse to stay still. Tyler does a podcast he doesn't cancel because he thinks audiences deserve the wrap-up even if the day was a bust. Javi argues with a county commissioner about siren coverage and learns that budgets answer only to votes, not clouds. A farmer whose barn is now a sentence fragment tells Kate something she hates to hear and needed: "You didn't save us, we saved each other." "You helped." The line recalibrates her mission from redemption to service. The escalation is meteorological and moral. A tornadic outbreak sets up across 2 states, training supercells like a conveyor belt. The SPC language gets spicy, the polygons overlap like bad policy. Kate's model predicts a rain-wrapped EF enemy that will hide its teeth and strike a population center after dark. Tyler's followers want a show, he posts a map instead. The teams merge in the only way that works under pressure: no oaths, just division of labor. Kate calls plays on placement. Tyler handles timing and escape routes. Javi babysits the mesh network that keeps warnings flowing when towers fail. A local fire chief becomes the glue because he knows which roads flood first and which houses hold elders who won't leave. The set piece that sells the title is an urban intercept. Two vortices thread through a grid like drunks weaving home. Sirens paint sound on the night, transformers strobe the sky, a big box store becomes both shelter and hazard. Kate's pods finally stand in the core of a mature circulation and give a data portrait we've never had turbulence mapped like veins, pressure drops that make ears cry. Tyler's truck, nicknamed for a lost dog because of course it is, becomes a battering ram for improvised rescue. Move a car, clear a lane, make room for an ambulance. The camera keeps you human scale, hands on shoulders, a child under a checkout counter, a coach counting heads. The climax is not a single tornado, it's a system's last tantrum. RFD wraps rain around violence and tries to erase accountability. Kate stays because she's finally learned when staying is math, not martyrdom. She guides a convoy through a stadium tunnel, turns a dugout into a pressure refuge, times a sprint between gust fronts. Tyler learns stillness, the one skill he never practiced. He sits with a woman who can't find her husband and doesn't offer hope that would be a lie. Javi's mesh holds long enough to keep the NOAA feed honest. The data, when it lands, is less trophy than tool, proof that hyperlocal warnings can shave fatal minutes into survivable ones. Mourning in this genre isn't peace, it's inventory. Damage surveys start, volunteers fan out, insurance adjusters frown into tablets, and somebody's grandma makes 6 dozen biscuits because grief still needs calories. Kate reads the map of what the night wrote and chooses a new sentence: stay in the work, not as penance, as purpose. Tyler, humbled without being broken, adds a second feed to his channel, tutorials on sheltering, on reading the sky, on fixing a busted wiper motor in a parking lot. Javi files a grant with data that moves allocations because numbers that smell like rain change budgets in ways speeches don't. The film closes with a day that tries to be ordinary. Cloud streets line up like parade routes, a thermal lifts a hawk, school lets out on time. Kate stands on a county line and listens the way chasers do when they're pretending not to. The wind doesn't answer. It doesn't have to. She's built a team that won't wait for perfection to start moving. Twisters isn't disaster porn, it's a civics lesson dressed as a chase movie, a story about how warnings become doors you can actually open, how neighbors turn into infrastructure, how a woman stopped trying to fix the past and started improving the next 15 minutes. If you want the exact enhanced Fujita ratings, the radar frames the county-by-county track maps that lives in the feature. What this recap can promise is momentum, craft, and a sky that keeps its secrets just long enough to make competence heroic.